You're listening to Parasearch Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or their affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Haunted Histories with your host Penny G. Morgan, right here on Parasearch UK Radio.
And a very good evening to all of you. I do hope you're well. Thank you for the messages that some of you have been sending me who heard about, well, let's just say, my accident and my now abandoned stuntman career after I, put it politely, buggered my ankle up. I've appreciated every single one of the messages, so thank you ever so much. I will be fine. I will be fine. Just I'm not sure when. Although working on crutches, it's given me a whole newfound respect for people who have to manage on crutches all the time. The world is not designed for crutches, and I can honestly say when people walk past you and nearly send you flying when you're on crutches, they're going to find they get one of them tripping them over to see how they like it at some point. But anyway, what's everyone been up to? Hi Richard, hi Michael. Got a couple of people in the chat room already. Well, we are live tonight. This isn't a pre-record, this is live, so do spread the word. And if anyone's got a question for my lovely guest, who I'll be introducing shortly, please do go and ping it on over in the chat room, and I'll make sure to ask him. He said no holds barred tonight, so I wonder what I'm going to be able to get away with asking him to do. I'm going to have to think about that. See where his limits are. Anyway, I've not been out much, as you can imagine. Investigating on crutches ain't much fun, but in a couple of weeks, actually on the 19th, I'll be in Bosworth Hall. I am live, Rich. Live. A bit like going live. Yes, so I'm going to be going to Bosworth Hall. I'm going to be there for the launch of the Osborne Ghost book. I'm one of their special guests. Ooh la la. Isn't that grand? And my lovely husband's going to come with me because I won't be able to do the drive all the way from Norfolk to Leicestershire. So he's agreed to come and stay at a lovely hotel with me so that he can help me out. Hi Sal. Yeah, I think he's getting quite a good end of the deal because he gets to go to a really nice hotel that his wife's paying for. So I'm not quite sure who's getting the better offer here, but there you go. But what else have I been up to? Oh, well, hopefully a lot of you heard... hi, Richard. A lot of you heard the interview I did with the absolutely gorgeous and wonderful Sam Bennett on Monday night. It was all about her witch school that the Paranormal Sisters have got going on. They've still got 1 or 2 spaces, so if it's something you want to do, please go out, check it out, or just have a listen to the interview that I did with her and let us know what you think. So, on to tonight's show. Well, my guest is, and my husband's just put chocolate in front of me. He's well trained, isn't he? My guest tonight is an absolutely gorgeous friend of mine. I love this guy to pieces, and I hope you know what I mean by that, Sal. You know that I love your husband to pieces. Hi, Wes. You're going to listen to a whole show? Yay! We're international. We are international. Anyway, so I call him my brother from another mother, because we do like to confuse people by saying we're related. Although when I did say that to my mum earlier today, hi SJ. Oh, you were last week, weren't you, Rich? I saw I mentioned you on Monday that I'd spoken to you. Yes, last week I did a show with the gorgeous Richard Clements on the Battle of Britain, and if you haven't listened to that one, you've done yourself a disservice. Go and listen to it after this is finished. Is that better, Rich? Is that better? Anyway, my mum, she misheard me when I said it's my brother from another mother, and she basically was like, what the hell are you talking about? You haven't got a brother from another mother. And it was like, oh, Mum, I had to explain what sister from another mister and brother from another mother meant. She gets there eventually, bless her. But it is the gorgeous, the wonderful, the incredibly Scottish Mr. Ryan Griffiths.
All right, Hen, how's it going?
Oh, I love it. It's murder on the dance floor.
It's murder on the dance floor, so it is, hen.
Talk into that microphone, boy.
I said it's murder on the dance floor, hen.
It is. How you doing, my little Scottish munchkin?
I'm doing all right. You?
I'm good. Apart from, like I say, you might hear me sort of fidgeting a bit as I sort of, 1 minute I have to have my ankle elevated and it looks very strange, and then the next minute I want to sort of sit normally again. But your missus has said that I can keep you if you don't bring him her chocolate.
Well, she can have all the chocolate now because I am now on a diet. So,
you're in training, aren't you?
Yes, so she can have all the chocolate. What
are you in training for, Mr. G?
Well, earlier this year, and he's going to get a mention, he always does, the amazing Lee Roberts ran the London Marathon for children with cancer.
He did, yeah.
I did all the training with him. I ran every step of the way with him, apart from the actual race itself. But this year, I thought I would take on... next year, I thought I'd take on the challenge myself. And he's only gone and surprised me by running it with me for the second time.
Yeah, he got in again, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he surprised me on our first training run. He sent me a little video and said, "Guess what?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "I'm in."
So you two are going to train together, run together?
We're going to finish the line. It doesn't matter who's fastest, who's slowest, none of that. We run it together. We cross the finish line together. Awesome.
And who are you running for?
Children with Cancer UK.
Ah, good luck. Is that April that happens, isn't it? It's April?
April the 26th, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I'm quite nervous, but looking forward to it at the same time.
Well, didn't you bugger your ankle up last year whilst you were training?
You did, yes, I did.
Yeah,
I tore all the ligaments, and all I did was step off my back step. That's all I did.
That's pretty much all I did to fracture mine. Yeah, I stepped off my front step to walk to the car and just rolled it. So I have done it for you this year. So you should be fine for this training.
Without sounding very nasty, let's hope so. Because
I've taken one for the team. I have taken one for the team for you. I have done the ankle injury.
Oh dear, what you like?
And what are we like? Yeah. So good luck. A couple of people have already said good luck to you. Well, don't worry, we'll be mentioning it on Parasearch nearer to the time, like we did with Lee.
Awesome.
Drumming up that sponsorship, because if you've never done a long distance run, and the furthest I've done is a half marathon, and bloody hell, that was hard enough.
Yeah.
It is not as easy as those long distance professional runners.
Mean, I'm by no means a professional, and I'm the same boat as you, Penny. I've done a half marathon, that's my maximum.
Yeah.
But it's slow and steady wins the race. You know, it's not about going out there and killing yourself, so to speak. So, just enjoy it and soak it all up, and all the sponsorship details will all be on the pages, as you know, near the time and things like that. So.
Cool. Yeah. No, I was thinking of doing the Brighton 10K again next year, and my husband was going to do the actual full marathon. But this kind of things have come up that means we're not going to be able to do it for next year. But it's an amazing thing to do, any of those sort of those long distance runs, because even though you're competing with yourself, it's more of a competition just to finish. You're competing with yourself to finish, and the atmosphere and the spectators, and it is something that I'll say to people, if you can run or just walk, and you get a chance to ever train and do something like that, like whether it's Brighton, Great North Run, London Marathon, there's one in Manchester, big one in Manchester, isn't there, as well, normally. Yeah. Any of that sort of thing, and if you've got the physical ability to do it somehow, it's worth doing, at least just once in your life. Sally has said that she's got the emergency mobility scooter ready for you.
Yeah, we're going to get a mobility scooter and pimp it up and put a nice little turbo on it and things when we need it.
Well, couldn't your daughter just bring one of the horses?
She could, yeah. That's an idea. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
We could get like a little trap thing going, like
Or you could go on roller skates and she could pull you behind.
Now that would be amusing.
That would be good, wouldn't it?
I could see potentially quite a funny paranormal gif in there somewhere.
I'll let you have that one. One, Ryan. You're also down in Essex quite soon, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm off with the lovely C&D doing another. It seems to be the theme at the minute. Another charity fundraising night. I can never pronounce the place properly, so I'll let you do that if you can.
Harwich Redoubt.
That's the one. I always say read. It's the way I say it. I can't say it right. It's strange.
Say doubt.
Doubt.
There you go. Redoubt.
Redoubt. Yeah. I always say, and it makes no difference to the listeners or yourself probably, but I always say read out rather than read out. Does that sound strange?
No, just say the fort at Harwich.
Yeah,
that's all it is. Redoubt is just another word for. It's a smaller type of fort.
Well, if anyone listening hasn't gathered already, I take myself very seriously, but not very seriously at the same time.
You take yourself seriously when you need to, but most of the time, I still remember at the village, me and Sal getting you to say all the words we could with the strongest Scottish. I think it was a curly whirly. What was it? You committed murder with a curly whirly.
Something about rhubarb.
No, it wasn't rhubarb.
No.
There was something. There was a curly whirly, murder. I can't remember what the third word was we got you to say, Sally and I. And everyone it is a language barrier, isn't it, Sal? Yeah. Everyone was laughing because they couldn't believe we'd got you to say it. And they were all being very well behaved, all the guests. And there's me and Sally literally rolling around on the floor laughing. So...
But knowing you so well, and obviously knowing Sally so well, I knew that there was no way, no matter what I said, I had to say it. I had to do it.
Oh, yeah, we wouldn't have given in.
No.
Yeah, Sally and I bonded quite quickly. We wouldn't have given in.
Well, you see, it seems to be... The thing with being Scottish is you just got to roll with the punches.
Oh, I love it. I can't do that rolling. It's the same when people speak Spanish with the roll, the R roll. I can't do it. My husband can do it. I can't roll my R's. And I just think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
It's annoying. It's like everywhere you go, it's like, all right, jock.
No, I love it. You know I love it. That's why I get you to say things like mudder and colly whirly and all that stuff. I love it.
Shall I say it one more time?
Go on.
I killed Penny with a curly whirly. I murdered her, so I did, by the way,
Oh, I love it. Well, we're amusing our Canadian friend Wes. He's killing himself laughing, and he said he likes you already. So there you go. You got the Canadian Wes Coleman seal of approval.
Well, I hope he appreciates Scottish banter by me saying, well, he'd be bound to be used to confusing accents being Canadian and then the French, and then the Canadian and the French, and then the Canadian and the French.
Yeah.
Their accent sounds weird.
I can't hear you.
Their accent sounds weird in Canada. See, ask him to, next time you speak to him, I don't know if you have, ask him to say about.
A boot.
It's weird how they say it. It freaks me out.
When I worked for an American company, one of our branches was in Toronto, so I got quite used to being able to tell the difference between the Canadian and the American accents. But no, I've met Wes. We did Bob in Jail together earlier this year for Richard a Step, and I'm actually going to be going out to Canada next year to spend some time at Wes's and get shown around a bit and everything else. So yes, we do speak. We speak on a... I'll say we chat online on a regular basis. We haven't had a proper chat for ages, Wes. We need to sort that out. Mr. Coleman.
It is such a thing watching movies and you think, he's got to be Canadian.
Yeah, I can normally tell. I'm pretty good at telling now, but anyway, that aside, we're gassing.
Yes.
We're just gassing.
Yes.
You're on the show tonight to talk about the Shetland Islands. Now,
indeed.
I have been researching them today, and I found out stuff that has completely blown me away, that I never knew. And I admitted, when you said to me, can we do a show on the Shetland Islands, I was thinking, never heard. There can't be that much to do with. They're just somewhere up in northern Scotland. They're just these islands. But holy crap, there's quite a lot about them.
The history is phenomenal.
It is, isn't it? And I mean, I've only written a bit of it down. The things that I could dig into even deeper if I was looking to... I can see why you could do a full-blown series of shows on the history of the Shetlands.
Well, remember what I spoke about before? It's certainly... You see why I was saying to you now, it's certainly a doable thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah,
definitely.
Watch out, Parasearch. Penny's on a mission.
Penny's on a mission. Yeah, they hate it when I get on a mission, when I spot something I can really dig into. They did this with me after the Battle of Britain show I did last week. I had a couple of messages from people saying, can we have more shows like this, like almost like a series of shows on this kind of thing? And I was like, okay, I don't know if I'll lose listeners, but okay, happy to do that. Anyway, so you were born on the Shetlands?
No, I was conceived on the Shetlands, but
specific.
Behave. But in those days, and even now, as far as I'm aware, they don't do C-sections. Oh. So I had to be airlifted from, my mother had to be airlifted from Shetland down to Aberdeen. And there's actually something a little bit spooky and supernatural with my birth as well, which is a little bit weird.
Go on, tell me. I didn't know this, tell me.
I was the second child born.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Room 2, Ward 2 in Aberdeen. Well, sorry, let me rephrase that. I was born in the maternity bit and then I was put into Ward 2 afterwards, but that's by the by, so there's 2 lots of 2 there. I was born at 22.
All the twos.
All the twos, 22.
And what month were you born?
I was September.
Oh, right, okay. I was going to say, I thought you just had a birthday.
1983.
But all the twos.
But all the twos, and it's a weird. I mean, I see the weirdness in it. And 2 has. When I played football, I was number 2.
Ah.
I was a right wing back, number 2.
It is weird when things like that happen. I mean, my youngest son was born at 111 on the 13th of the 8th, 13, weighing £6.6.
That's mad. I don't know what weight it was. Maybe there's a 2 in there too. I'm not sure, but
could be. But you went back. Obviously, you went back to the Shetland. You were on the because the main island is called the mainland southern. Isn't it called the mainland Shetland or something? It's not got a name. The main island.
There's mainland Shetland. There's no name because there's obviously just like anywhere else. It's like it's almost like a county. So you've got like all your little towns and things like that, and your capital Lerwick, and the old days capital of Scalloway, which is like about 5 minutes from Lerwick.
I love that name.
That was the old capital because it was the easiest fishing port, and then it went on to Lerwick, which was much bigger and blah blah blah. But there's like 100 different little islands dotted all the way around Shetland. Some of them bigger than others, obviously. But it's as much as it's. I think if my memory serves me right, and don't quote me on this, I think it's 72 miles long by 7.5 miles wide.
Yeah, sounds about right.
From the longest point, obviously, to the widest point. But even though it's that small, with a population of over 22,000 people, it is like it's one of these places that you could just get enthralled in for weeks, months, if not years. And it is magical. I mean, I'm bound to say that, but the Irish say that about Ireland. But Shetland really does have something. There's something there. You would understand if you go.
I will one day, I promise. I will.
There is something there.
Now, looking at a few little statistics about the place, it's 80 kilometres roughly northeast of Orkney.
Yep.
It's about 170 kilometres from mainland Scotland.
Yep.
And it's only 300 kilometres west of Norway.
And do you want the shock and how long it takes you to get there?
Go on.
14 hours by boat.
To Norway.
20 minutes by plane. No, to the Shetland.
I know that when we talked about this, when you said if we went over how long it took to go by boat, and I was like, hell, I ain't spending that long on a boat. I will sell a kidney so I can fly. I'll get my pilot's license finally, and I will fly us in. I'm not going on a boat for that many hours. But it's the fact it's only 300 kilometres from Norway. Which, when we start talking about some of the history of the island, will start to make a bit sense. Now, Wes has asked, is that where Windhouse is?
Yeah, in Yell, yeah. There's a famous haunted house called the Windy House in Yell. We call it the Windy House, but he's pronouncing it, typing it the right way.
Yeah.
I've actually got the chat on the screen in front of me.
Okay, so yes, Wes. Yes, Wes, that is your answer. You're correct.
It has the devil's footprint.
Oh, it's that one. I've heard of that. So, you're from Bray?
I'm actually from a place called Hillswick, but we lived in Bray. When I was born, we went back to the Shetlands, obviously, after I was born. We went to a place called Hillswick, which is in the north end of the island.
Right.
Several years later, when I was at high school, we moved to Bray, and then the family's really all over the island, but my granny and my mum and things, they all sort of stayed in Bray from that point onwards.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, one of the reasons you're wanting... somebody called Debbie has asked if you're Norwegian.
I had a feeling... I know who this is.
Oh,
I had a feeling it's a running joke, you see, because I always say I'm Scottish, I'm proud to be Scottish.
But you're probably part Viking.
Yeah, well, I do say that. That's my boxing name when I fight, you see. So.
That makes sense now.
Yeah.
We're going to explain the relevance of this shortly, don't worry. Anyway, where was I? So, one of the reasons we actually agreed to do this show on the Shetlands before you had your family tragedy over the summer. Now, I wasn't sure if you'd still want to do the shows on it, but when you and I, we were chatting quite a lot, sort of off the record, off air, so to speak, about things, because we do talk.
Well, you were good enough to, all you guys, even Parasearch, I thank you all, because you were in touch with me the time I was up there as well, so, I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
In fact, the whole paranormal community, the community was amazing.
Yeah. Now, what actually happened, and I'm not actually, I'm saying this very seriously, I'm not taking the mickey. I genuinely am not. As Ryan mentioned, a lot of his family still lived in Bray, including his nan. And would I be right in saying your nan was quite pivotal in raising you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. She was basically like my mother. Yeah.
And it was actually in the news nationally what had happened. There was it's an absolutely horrific thing, but your nan's house blew up.
It did, yeah.
Your nan and cousin, I believe, were in it?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, am I right in thinking your cousin survived? Because he
did?
He kind of got blown out of the house, didn't he, when it happened?
Yeah, and somebody, if you believe in that type of thing, and I certainly do, obviously, but everyone's their own beliefs, but that's just someone must have been watching over him that day.
Yeah, because he kind of got blown clear of the house as it exploded, and but unfortunately, your lovely nan, didn't make it.
No, she got as far as hospital and died in the resuscitation room.
Yeah,
bless her. It was Philip, my cousin. It was a difficult thing for him. Even now, as you can imagine. But all he happened, like you say, he got actually physically blown from the house. And all he sustained was a bruised chin. So how that was possible, as I say, someone must have been watching over him. And I know that when I went up there myself and I took some pictures and things like that for insurance purposes and such like, the window of his bedroom was 250 metres away from the house.
Bloody hell.
And so that gives you an idea that was from his bedroom. His bedroom window ends up 250 yards away or metres away, and he gets blown out the side of the house. It's just crazy. Even now, it's a strange processing it,
It's probably one of those things you're never going to process. It's just it's you can't explain it, you can't quantify it. But so, and say the family lost your lovely nan. But
she'd obviously, I don't mind speaking about it because I think there's, I know that there's something in it for people to be wary of and to pay attention to and things like that for their own safety.
Yeah.
And by no means am I trying to put the frighteners up anybody. It's not about that. It's just about raising awareness, really. But if you have any gas appliance, whether it's a boiler, whether it's a cooker, or it doesn't matter what it is, just always have it checked regularly. Don't just think, I'll do that next month or next week or whenever. Get it done. It's worth it. For all the time it takes, it can save lives.
Yeah.
My granny, bless her, she'd gone to the kitchen, turned the oven on, and of course that's just when the whole house exploded.
Awful.
And
Awful.
she'd sustained 60% burns, and also, excuse me, one of the neighbours broke into the house. Didn't see her at first because there was so much rubble. Then he spotted her on fire, spotted what he looked like a pile of clothes on fire. He doused the flames naturally, realised it was my nan, and all she kept saying was, rather than saying, save me or get me out or anything like that, she just kept asking for Philip, which was my cousin.
Checking he was all right. Now,
and she asked that all the way to the end.
Bless her. Now, again, I'm not trying to sound rude or trite or anything like that, but obviously you're a medium. You're a psychic medium. How can you cope going somewhere like that, knowing, if you get, how do you cope with the pain and stuff that you're feeling as an individual anyway, but also that you might be picking up as a psychic medium? Yeah,
totally. I totally understand exactly where you're coming from. Professionally, whenever I've gone to places, I pick up on that all the time. Things like that, energy that's in and around certain events that have happened in a certain location, and this was no different. I was aware of different spirit coming towards me, different energies coming towards me, and things like that. My mum didn't die in that house, but she took seriously ill in that house and then was transported to the same hospital and died there.
Yeah.
My auntie died of a brain hemorrhage in that house. And then, of course, the incident with my nan. And so I was picking up all sorts, and it was difficult.
Yeah.
But the one thing I kept thinking was, I have to keep going forward because it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's like everything I do, and it's not for an ego. It's everything I do in life. It's not about me.
Yeah.
I can do anything I want whenever I want, but there's so many people out there who need help, such as children with cancer, such as the gentleman who's poorly down that we're going with C&D with in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Jeff, the chap he's lost half his brain or something, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I've got my whole life in front of me, so why not use that to better things and to do good for people?
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I just strive to push myself forward, and I like to think I did that.
I know that well, I think you have. I know that you're doing a lot of fundraising stuff over the next sort of 12 months and also sort of, not say raising awareness of being careful with gas appliances, but literally just raising awareness of things like that can happen, that can just...
It's the things we take for granted, though, isn't it? It's my electric's always on, so I'm fine. My gas is always on, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Even myself, when I got my boiler done this year and checked, it was 3 months over.
Yeah.
And now at the time I was thinking, it doesn't matter. But now when I came back, obviously it would have been the stress of what happened and the depression. But I was paranoid as anything because I knew I had gas in the house.
Yeah.
So, like you say, I'm doing as much as I can over the next 12 months. I've got this event at the village that's coming up on the 27th of March.
Which you've asked me to be a special guest at.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way. My sister from another mister.
Yeah, that's the one.
So, it's going to be a cracking night. There'll be some medium shit. Not from myself, because I'm going to take a back-seater from it and let a lot of my friends who want to get involved and have messaged me asking to take part. I'm going to let others take the lead, if that makes sense. But it's all to raise money for a memorial and a headstone for my nan, because everything was destroyed. It goes without saying. Everything was destroyed in the fire and in the explosion itself.
And she didn't have any insurance because she didn't believe in it.
Exactly. So they have nothing. So to get a headstone, my mother still doesn't have one in her grave, and it's over 11 years.
They're not cheap.
Certainly not.
Sally has just said that'll be me and her gassing all night then. Sal, I'm staying at yours.
Yes. Oh, sugar. I was about to swear there. I went, sugar.
No, you can swear on my station. You're allowed to. Yeah, I'm staying at yours, Sal. There you go.
I just realised.
You did offer. You offered.
Yeah. I've just realised what I've let myself in for. Sorry, we're fully booked. There's no room at the end.
Right, so the Shetland Islands, and I think talking about the background of the islands might give people a bit more of an idea of this spirit that you guys have. Not spirit as in spooky spirit, but spirit as in strength of character and this kind of
Who we are.
Oh, Wes, the 27th of March, a place called The Village in Mansfield, which is near Nottingham. Message me and I'll tell you all about it. So what blew my mind is that when I think about how remote the Shetland Islands are compared to, in fact, mainland Britain.
Oh, yeah.
They reckon that there's been Neolithic farmers there since 3000 BC at least.
Yeah, easily.
So it's been occupied since 3000 BC. And the question I thought was, how the hell did people get there all the way back then? Because they would.
That is an interesting one.
It is, isn't it? You know, is it the meteorites? I mean, could they swim? Was that what it was? That was the first thing I thought of, and that was interesting enough. And it gradually went through loads of different sort of variations of those kind of, and there's loads and loads and loads of artifacts still on the various islands to do with this. But there was a couple of bits that really interested me that I was looking at: the Vikings, and then the World War II bit, which are the two bits I'm going to probably focus on more because we've only got sort of half an hour left. Otherwise, we could talk about this for 4 or 5 hours.
It's a big one.
It is a big one. For a tiny place, it's a big one. Right. Now, hopefully you remembered at the beginning I said, not you, Rye, but people listening, that Norway was only 300 kilometres, or around 160, 170 miles, 180 maybe, from the Shetlands. Now, that is pretty much, that's less than from me to drive to Nottingham from where I am in Essex. So it's not very far. The Vikings turned up in the Shetlands. They believe it was around 800 AD. So it was a few years after they invaded Lindisfarne in Northumberland, which was one of the first times they landed in England.
Yep. And
as went with the Vikings, they kind of, raped and pillaged and took over and all that kind of thing. But actually I had to triple check these dates because I was like, that cannot be right. They didn't leave until 1468.
It's madness, isn't it?
When you think that the Vikings' sort of reign in England pretty much ended, it's around 1066 when William the Conqueror took over, although saying that he came from Normandy, which they were kind of a branch of the Vikings themselves. But the typical Scandinavian Vikings, their reign didn't end in the Shetlands until 1468. Which is kind of, I had to triple check the dates.
Obviously, I'm not massive on my history and things like that, but I remember them stories I used to get told by one of my old teachers at the school in Shetland, and he used to say to me that Shetland, the Vikings came to Shetland, he would say, when one of the Vikings fell out with his friend the Jarl, and he left. Now, I am going to tie this into the TV series Vikings in a few minutes, okay. But he said that he fell out with his friend the Jarl. He got what do you call the word, ostracized? No, not ostracized. Kicked out the
ostracized.
That's the one. I couldn't think of the word. Right. And off he went in his little boat with a few people, and he came across Shetland. Yep. And they found it very desolate, and the winds and the weather horrendous, which it is. Mm-hmm. It's not for the faint-hearted. And then when I watched the Vikings, the TV series, and of course there's Floki in it, off he goes, and he comes across the island, which is, I think, is the sort of transpine as Iceland. Is that right? Or if I got myself all confused here.
What's that?
In Vikings, Floki goes off, doesn't he? And then he comes across the island, wants to start his own people and things like that there, and there's like volcanoes and all sorts of things going off, isn't it? And the land, you can't farm it.
Could be. I can't remember off the top of my head. I do know they think it was the Norwegian Vikings were the first And they commandeered. They think it was. They did a lot of Scotland, but Orkney and the Shetlands predominantly. But they ended up with just Orkney and the Shetlands because basically they kept getting pushed back. And you were right about the individual jarls or jarls. They were pushed off, and they were the ones who Wes has just said yes, it's Iceland. Thank you, Wes.
Yeah.
He's my little assistant. Did you know? He goes and looks things up for me. Well, I'm not sure. He's great. It's great to have around. Anyway, the jarls were basically what we would call earls or dukes. That's all they were. It's just their name for it. And yeah, they apparently one of the senior Vikings came to see them, and they basically sort of said, sod off. We're quite happy here, leave us alone. I don't know if that's quite how they said it, but that's kind of how I paraphrase it. But it's why they lost the islands that I think is absolutely hysterically funny. Do you know why they lost the islands?
Go on.
Do you know this?
No, I'm not
right.
very good at my history.
This is great. Okay, so 1468, the Viking rule of the Shetlands and the Orkneys disappeared. Reason being was James III, the Scottish James III, was marrying Margaret, who was a Danish.
Oh, the dowry.
Yeah, was a Danish princess, and the Danes didn't have enough money for the dowry, so they mortgaged the islands. Couldn't afford to pay the mortgage back, so therefore the islands were annexed in 1471 to mainland Scotland. And the Danes apparently kept saying, we want them back, and Scotland was like, Edinburgh was like, nah, they're ours now, mate, bye. you lost them, you didn't pay them back. I just think mortgaging your islands to pay for someone to get married, that's pretty extreme. I mean, it just goes into my whole modern day thing of people over-mortgage themselves, they have too expensive weddings, and they get themselves into trouble. They've been doing it for 700 years.
It's a human thing. Thing.
But that's how the Vikings lost the islands, because they used them for a dowry and couldn't pay it back.
You see, with Vikings, even now, I mean, those who don't know, but I'd be very surprised if they didn't, is the Uphelias, which is worldwide renowned, where we still hold Viking ceremonies. I think there's 12 of them that are all around the island at different points of the same sort of time frame of about a month at the beginning of the year. Usually between the second week in January through to the second week in February, you'll get all the different towns or main towns in Shetland having their very own Viking Uphelia. And with Lerwick being the centre point of the whole celebration. And it's just a massive fire festival, just like when the Vikings would bury their jarls. Now, I have to say jarl, and I have to stress that point, Penny, because this is a local thing up in Shetland and Scotland. When people say jarl, like you said a minute ago.
I think I said jarl or jarl. It's spelled jarl, but it's jarl, and it means earl.
What exactly? And what they would have said in Shetland was them soothmouthers. That's what they would always call people from mainland Scotland. They would always say soothmouthers.
Soothmouthers.
Yeah. Even to this day, if you think that you've gone in a work placement or a social setting anywhere, or even a village or whatever, and you thought that these people are very cliquey, then up in Shetland, try adding 100 times that.
I grew up in Norfolk, mate. It's probably very similar. Yeah,
you got it. So you can understand the mindset. So everything, any technology or anything like this that comes up, or any TV shows or anything like that, it's very frowned upon. Like even the TV series Shetland.
Really?
A lot of people are happy that it's bringing tourists to the island, obviously for the income, but at the same time the portrayal in it of local Shetlanders, a lot of people are getting angry, but of course they don't understand, as I tried explaining while up there, how media works. I mean, they want a true Shetland sounding person so that it gives an accurate description. But I'm trying to explain to them, saying, but think about it logically. If we put someone who is broad Irish or someone who was broad Shetland or something like that, you would never understand the word they were saying.
I get that. I mean, I wasn't born in Norfolk. I was born in Essex, but I grew up in Norfolk. And I know people in Norfolk would get incredibly annoyed when they'd be watching a series that was based in Norfolk and the actor would basically be doing a Cornish accent. Because there is a difference, and if you know the accents, you'd know them. But it was that they just weren't pulling off a Norfolk accent, so I can kind of understand their annoyance. But then there is also, like you say, you've got to make it accessible for people who maybe aren't great with accents to actually hear. It's like if you when people used to watch Auf Wiedersehen Pet, the amount of times you'd be going, "What was that?" Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
And I know they had to temper that down slightly because people just couldn't understand the Geordie. So it does make sense. But the place itself, I mean, I only sort of researched for 3 or 4 hours today on it. But for such a small part of the world,
it's amazing.
It's amazing. I mean, the things I loved was all the sagas. Like the actual Viking sagas, and the fact I found one that actually mentioned Asgard, and I was like, "Yes, Thor's real." Chris Hemsworth is Thor. Yes.
Even to this day, they're massive on their Viking culture. Obviously, as I say, with the Uphelly Abbot, putting that to one side, they still talk about Thor, Odin, all this. It's a big part of the community.
Yeah.
And even Jarlshof, which is in the south part of the island near the airport, is...
That's one of the things I was going to mention, mate.
I got you.
How do you pronounce it? Sumbra?
Jarlshof.
Sumbra Head? No,
Sumbra, yeah.
It's on Sumbra Head, is that right?
Sumbra Head. Well, it's not... Sumbra Head is like where the lighthouse is, but Jarlshof is probably about 2 miles from that.
Okay, and this is a prehistoric and a Norse
and
settlement.
Workable.
Yeah, and it's actually got a broch in it.
Yeah,
Is that right? Broch?
Brochs. There's Brochs dotted it, and it's strange. There's been a lot of historians looking into the reason behind Brochs and why they were built in that way and things like that.
Now, what a broch is, for anyone listening who doesn't know, these were I think they classed them as being Iron Age, but they were used.
Yeah.
And it's just like a sort of it's quite sort of tallish, but we're not talking like skyscraper, but a roundhouse. But it's got a specific way of insulating the bricks.
It's strange because it's when you go inside it spirals round, so that and then if you can imagine like going inside and then walking round, getting higher and higher and higher. And there'll be people living on. It looks like a path that goes round the inside of it, and there's little cubby holes on the inside, and the bit into the wall where people would sleep, and then another bit they would cook, and another bit. Wow. Do you see what I mean? It was strange, keep food and things like that. But
because you've got one that's quite intact, haven't you? Is it Musa?
Musa Broch and Clickamin Broch in the centre town of Lerwick.
Because I love the story that's associated with Musa Broch. The Eagles saga.
I know.
That in 900 AD there was an eloping Viking couple who got shipwrecked there, and they sheltered. They're meant to have sheltered in this broch until they could escape. And this is I downloaded a copy of this. I don't know how to pronounce it. Eagles saga, and. I didn't understand a word of it, even the translated bit, but it looks like it'd be a good story.
There's a lot of potential for media, different things that they could, from the folklore and the stories. I could just see lots of different shows popping up from that sort of Shetland, from the different backgrounds. But touching on Jarlshof there. When we're talking about that, what I love about it is during the summertime, and I don't think it's all year round. I think it's like student season. All the students will come up, and then they'll dress as Vikings, they'll work as Vikings, they will do all work with yarns and all sorts of things, so that when tourists go up, it looks it's a workable, livable. It's strange.
No, it's definitely fascinating, just like the few bits, because you say all these sagas as well. The fact that they've made a television show out of Beowulf, you could quite easily make it. I mean, there was an Orkneyinga saga, all this kind of stuff. You could quite easily make a brilliant television show.
Easily.
Dramatise it. And now you mentioned the folklore, because this was another thing that I was looking up, and I was just like, oh, well, Sally, if you think it's funny hearing me pronounce what I've pronounced so far, just hold on to your seat, girl. You
This
guys.
I can't wait for.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go for the easy one first. Nuggles.
Nuggles.
No, I haven't missed the S off snuggles. Nuggles are a type of waterhorse sprite, but they're good waterhorse sprites. They're not nasty ones. Then you get the Nucky Lavy,
yeah.
it's not that far off. They're nasty waterhorse sprites. Evil ones. Nasty, mean, horrible, bad. So you've got Nuggles and Nuckalavy. Then you've got Selkies, or Sealkies.
Yep.
And they are seal folk.
But
and
let's just point this out very quickly. We're not on a Harry Potter trip here, by the way. Anyone listening? Penny hasn't drank the special juice. Nothing untoward's happening. She's being serious.
It's only orange squash I'm drinking, I promise. Right, so this is true. You can look it up. Now, these are meant to be seal folk, i.e. who can turn from seal to human. And apparently there's a story that was told to children for years called the Great Sulky of Sewell Skerry. About a child, about a child who the mum didn't know who the dad was, and the dad appears and he's a Selkie, and apparently he took the baby away, and the mum then would have to marry whoever killed him to get the baby back. Something along those lines. It was quite good, quite good. So that's another one. Then you've got Finmen, who are sorcerous sea shapeshifters. Blah.
That was say that one again.
Sorcerous sea shapeshifters.
No faster.
Sorcerous she on seashore. Yeah. The shapeshifters out the water who are a bit cheeky. That's another way of putting them. And then you've got the typical, which all Celtic type countries have. You've got your fairies and your spirits called, I think I actually meant to say troll, but you lot mistook the two L's for a W and called them trows.
Trows, yeah.
Trows. I think they meant to say troll, but there you go.
Yeah, they're probably some drunk Shetlander somewhere. Trows, yeah.
But they are dissimilar to a troll. They're very, very similar to the whole Scandinavian trolls. They're short, ugly things that are a bit naughty. The one I loved were the giants. Now, if anyone who's ever looked into Norse mythology, giants is a big thing in Norse folklore.
Huge.
Yeah, yeah. Huge. Now, the thing is with the Shetland Islands, and I was reading up on this, and this folklore expert said one of the reasons they don't think that the Shetlands have as much giant mythology as the Norse population did is there's not so many places for giants to hide. And apparently this is true. And apparently the giant mythology you guys have was based on Hoy and Rose?
Yeah, they had a big battle.
Yeah. And apparently they're very grumpy. And they like to throw stones around.
Yeah.
And apparently one of their throwing stones around is they were trying to throw stones into the sea to connect to the islands.
Well, there's up in Aisnes, which is the most northerly point of Shetland, which is looks out onto the Atlantic, if I've got that right, because the Atlantic and North Sea meet up there, and there's literally a single track road that separates them at one part of Shetland, so it's quite funky to jump from one side to the other, and you're in two different oceans. But the giants, they had this big, obviously through the stories, had this big fight and this big battle, and there's 5 rocks, but they're all starting to disintegrate now in the water, which look like fingers sticking out of the ocean up in Aisnes. And some of them are falling away, and it genuinely does. I'll have to Google the picture and send it to you, Penny,
cool.
So you can see it yourself. But that's where the last battle of the giants took place, allegedly, of course.
But yeah, apparently they were meant to be very grouchy and throw things at each other, and they threw stones to try and connect the islands.
That's right, yeah.
Which, I love it. I love all these kind of stories. So, we've touched a little bit on folklore. So we've only got 11 minutes left. We've touched a little bit on folklore. We've touched a bit on the Viking history, and the fact that the Vikings lost it because they over-borrowed, basically. The next thing I think is bloody amazing, and this is something I'm actually going to probably write an article or at least a blog on for the website, is the Shetlands' involvement in World War II.
Yes.
And its involvement with Norway in World War II.
Mm-hmm. It had quite a big part to play in the war, to be fair.
Just a tad. Just a tad. Now remember, they're only 300 kilometres away from Norway. Hitler had invaded Norway in 1940. They used the Shetlands for what was known as the Shetland bus.
Yep.
Which was using small... it was kind of... ended up... the Shetlands became the base for loads of small Norwegian fishing boats who were working for the Norwegian resistance. And ferrying people back... well, ferrying like arms and weapons and all manner of things to try and... in fact, they apparently were one of the things... They were used on a couple of failed, quite well-known missions. It didn't work, but...
yeah, they were.
They actually... they had their own HQ. I know it was... the SOE, the Special Operations Executive, did an awful lot of work with them, training them and everything else. And it's quite amazing, because I say, I never knew that. I never knew about that. It's logical when you think about it now, but I didn't know.
There's a place on Shetland called Rona's Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And Rona's Hill is, again, don't quote me on it, but I believe it to be just a couple of feet short of the minimum height to be a mountain. Mm-hmm. It's like the highest hill or something like that. But on top of it, there used to be an old army barracks.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like, even now you go up there's all remnants of old buildings and big dishes and things like that.
Yeah.
I've not done enough research into it to find much about it, but the stories go around about there that they were sending like secret messages backwards and forwards to Europe and different places and things like that.
Yeah.
And the Shetland Museum has a massive section on the Shetland bus. It's fascinating. It really is.
The one at Scalloway.
Scalloway Museum, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely... So I only touched on it. I was starting to read up on it too much, and I was thinking, no, I'm gonna fall into a hole here if I keep reading. I'm going to forget everything else. But their HQ was at somewhere called Flemington House, which then became known as Cairngord. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Did I pronounce that right? Cairngord?
That was actually bang on.
Aha! So all those people taking the mickey out of me in the chat room. There you go. I get
Sally
there eventually.
Included.
Sally and Wes, in your face. Is that still there? That building?
It is. Well, bits and pieces of it. You know, there's a lot. What surprises me with all the artefacts in Shetland, and believe me, there's lots of it, as you know, with Time Team going up there as well in the past. But it surprises me with the weather conditions that are so bad up there. Mm-hmm. That these things are so well preserved, considering, you know, it's unreal.
Wow. Have you just read Wes's comment that's just come up in the chat room?
My uncle died close to Shetland, shut down over the North Sea. They never found his body. Always felt connected to the Shetlands. Well, Wes, what I would say to you is, it's like I touched on at the very beginning, it is a magical place. There is something about it. I always say, whenever you go to Shetland, you must, if you're on the boat, you must witness the boat coming into the harbour. It's one of those things that you will never forget, and I always say you will always return.
Yeah. Now, Wes, is that your uncle who you were named after, who was on the bombers? I'm presuming it was, that you've told me about before, but I mean, it's just some of the stories I've been reading. It has got almost like a fair, and when you see the scenery, and when I've looked at some of the scenery pictures, I can kind of see why the Norse side of things fits there so well, because it is almost how I imagined Asgard.
You would have seen a lot of those photos and videos and things that I put up when I came back. I mean, the scene, and in fact, I've got it as one of my headers on my Facebook profile. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely a beautiful place. But is it haunted?
Very much so. I'm going to briefly touch on it because we've not got a lot of time left. But it is unbelievably haunted. I mean, Wes was touching on the Windy House. That has, whether it's factual or not, again, I don't know, but there's bodies allegedly being found in the walls and the floors. It's got the devil's footprint, which is like a hoof at the door. The house, there's a number of houses that I lived in. I had my first ghost experience in Shetland, where I saw what would have been my first aunt. I think I told you this on the last interview. I'm not sure.
Can't remember. Sorry.
But there's been loads. All the old croft houses, which are hundreds of years old, that still stand. My family own a lot of land up there, and some of those I wouldn't dare go in on my own because they're not aggressively haunted, but so physically haunted in the sense of things being thrown, that you can see people. They're not. I mean, it is. I can't wait to work on some projects that I've got planned for the coming year or so.
Yeah. Well, so which bit? I mean, is that you've mentioned that they're not nasty hauntings? Is there anything nasty on the Shetlands? Because we mentioned that those naughty horse water sprites that are meant to be the nasty ones. You got the nice ones and then the nasty ones. Most of the sort of folklore that I read, it's more cheeky, like not nasty, downright evil, but more cheeky. Is there anything on the island that is people steer clear of?
They're very superstitious people.
Mm-hmm.
As you can imagine, as I say, there's still ties with Thor and Odin and things, so they're very much spiritual, God-fearing people type thing. So anything that's a little bit... I always used to make jokes about Little Britain, and I believe it was, they used to say, you remember the old shop that was in Little Britain, if you've ever seen it, where there was the two people, and they were like, we're the only ones in the village, they'll never leave this village, that sort of thing. They were a little bit weird and twisted like that, but not in a bad way, just in the sense of they believe that if anything happens, it's bad luck. And certain birds fly around boats, as you can imagine. The superstition's still there.
Well, it's got a very big seafaring sort of... everything's been fish and seafaring and everything else hasn't it?
Yeah, my first job was working with the fish and filleting fish, so... it's they're very superstitious people, so that's where the negative side would come in. They'd be looking more at things being bad luck, and they're very against outside people coming in.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why I say it'd be very difficult for anybody to...
Can you talk into your mic, darling?
I think I was covering it with my finger. I apologise.
It's all right, love.
Anyone from outside the island would find it very, very difficult going up there and ghost hunting. I'm very lucky to have the privilege of knowing and have such a big family up there that I know almost everyone. So I can get access to quite a lot of places. But they will flat turn you around. They'll flat say, no, you're not allowed, because they like to keep it their way, and their way is the only way.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. It has its negatives, but it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I noticed that we're coming very near the end, and I just want to use this opportunity, if I can, to say a massive thank you to a couple of people, including yourself.
Oh, you don't have to. What for?
No, I don't. It's just I'm a very passionate person in general with everything that I do. I'm very passionate, and it's a good platform to say thank you to each and every single one of you that, as I said at the beginning, that gave me all the support during the tragedy of the past summer there and the things that my family was going through. I know that in particular there's some people such as Marcus and Debbie who did the comment in the chat there. I owe so much to them for sticking by me through every day that I was up there, and yourselves. And it just goes to show that there's so much backstabbing and negativity around in the paranormal world, yet when needed, everyone was there for me. And of course, it goes without saying, the legend, the amazing Mr. Lee Roberts.
Look, his ego is quite fragile.
Yes.
We've got to big him up because I actually haven't spoken to him for a while. I must.
He needs inflating every now and again.
Oh yeah, reinflating like a blow-up doll. The image. Well, it's always a pleasure talking to you, Rye. I enjoy it, and stay on the line once we finish the show, because I've got a couple of other things I want to mention to you off the air. But
no worries.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time. You've got a new fan in Wes as well.
Oh,
by the looks of it.
That. I appreciate that, Wes.
And Wes is he's a straight up guy. He is a straight up guy. That one. So
can you block that stalker Sally though? She's a wee bit of a stalker.
She's getting a bit much, isn't she?
Yeah. Block her.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, she was saying she's laughing about how I'm pronouncing some of these words. Get you guys to Norfolk and show you some of the Norfolk names and see if you can pronounce them, and then I can laugh back.
Bring it
on. Well, Wes wants a part 2 on the Shetland, so I'm sure we can get that going for you next year when I start planning 2020 schedule. Maybe
who knows? Maybe a special trip.
Well, that's what I want to talk to you about off air. But yeah, thank you so much, Ry. Do keep us posted with the charity events you're doing, so that I can mention them for you. Obviously, all things. Hopefully, like no more broken ankles or anything beforehand. I will be at the village for that charity event as a special guest, and I should hopefully have my second book out by then as well. So I'll bring both of them with me, and we can do a little raffle as well to raise a bit of extra money. I don't know what else to say. Just make sure you follow Ryan. He's got a couple of social media pages. You can follow him in his medium capacity. You can obviously follow him as part of... You're still part of the Hauntings, right?
Yeah, of course, man.
Yeah,
We've just got lots on at the minute.
Yeah, so you can go and follow him as part of the Hauntings, and you might have to sort of be nice to Lee as well to get through to Ryan, but they're all nice.
Lee's my manager.
Well, on that note, thanks again, Ryan. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to everyone who's been in the chat room. You have been making me smile. I do appreciate it. Tomorrow night, obviously, we've got the Parasearch Radio show, and next week my show is with my gorgeously talented friend, Mr. Richard Estep, and we're going to be talking about his new book on Fox Hollow Farm. It will be a pre-record because that guy his feet just don't touch the ground. He doesn't stop. But that's who I'm going to be talking to next week. And so tomorrow night's the Parasearch Radio show, and then Friday you've got the Dark Mirror show. But on that note, as always, thank you for listening. Have a good evening. Sleep tight. And don't worry too much about things that go bump in the night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.